Hey, you guys, what's up? It's Monday.
Yep.
Movie review time.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting movie. It was suggested to us by...
Phantom suggested this one.
The Phantom said...
And I actually really like made-for-TV horror movies.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
For some reason.
I
don't know.
It's about a poltergeist case, and it's very much like the movie Poltergeist. Very much like it.
I mean,
almost like a ripoff.
They're framing it as a haunting
case
because there's a whole thing about the ghost and everything like that, but which we'll get into. But this movie, okay, I first looked it up because Phantom gave us the title Victim of the Haunt. So if you Google Victim of the Haunt, a movie called The Uninvited comes up, but it's the same movie. This movie has 4 different titles. The Uninvited, Victim of the Haunt, The Haunting of Patricia Johnson, which is the version that we watched. That was the title card on that one. And also The House at the End of the Street. I don't know why it has so many titles, but it does.
Because it changed hands, probably, and was resold.
Well, what ended up happening, I think it originally... I'm not sure. Like, the version we watched, they said... it said it was on Amazon Prime, but I couldn't find it on there. It said it was on Tubi, and I forgot to look on Tubi. But somebody had a version of it on YouTube, and that's the one that we watched. And it was, decent quality. And that one was called The Haunting of Patricia Johnson. But it's all the same movie. 1996. Beau Bridges. Sharon Lawrence. And it's a haunting. And it's supposedly based on a true story. But I'm going to say not so much. The thing about it is that there's not much information about this movie out there. And there's not much information about the actual case. I had a hell of a time, just finding out what case was this supposedly based on. It took a while for me to, figure that out. And so finally I did. And the woman at the center of it, of the actual haunting, her last name is Johnson, but her name is Doretta. It's not Patty like it was in the movie. And she wrote a book, which obviously I didn't have time to read. But I was just reading through kind of a synopsis of the book and all the stuff that happened. And nothing is the same.
Yes.
Now,
not even in the same. It's not even in a house.
It's not even the same. I mean, they did turn it into a house. It's not in the same state. They changed their names. They changed the family, the number of kids. I think they have the same number of kids, but their ages are different. It's just kind of the whole situation, the whole backstory of the haunting is different. So pretty much everything is different. The only thing that's the same is a family moves into a house and their last name is Johnson. That's about, and there was kind of a thing with the bathtub. That was about it.
Yeah, we don't know how...
That was similar.
Yeah, and the phenomenon that's showed is pretty much along the lines of what you would see at a Poltergeist. The movie Poltergeist. Very similar.
Yeah, because as soon as it came on, you could tell that I'm not going to be... I mean, this was actually a very decent made-for-TV movie. Like I said, this was 96. And it's quite well made. But like I said, you can tell that they took the actual story, because it was supposed to be based on this, haunting that this woman had written a book about. And I guess they just decided to change it to more be like Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot like Poltergeist. The movie Poltergeist.
Yeah.
The Tobe Hooper one.
You could mistake this as Poltergeist 2 or Poltergeist 3 or Poltergeist 5 or something.
It's very similar.
Or a reboot or a remake of Poltergeist 1. It could fly as that too. Which that's probably a better way to describe it. Kind of like a weird reboot of Poltergeist 1.
Yeah, it's almost...
It even has the fucking... being buried over fucking graves, the house
built over a graveyard.
Yeah, a lot of that shit is the same.
A brand new house in, I'm presuming, California.
Going through different dimensions.
Yeah.
And they had the dimension type stuff.
Bringing a little psychic to the house.
Yeah,
she wasn't a little person.
She wasn't a dwarf, but
no.
Yeah, they had a psychic in the house. It had some, they were talking about phenomenon. There was a light phenomenon on the walls. It was kind of like the phenomenon from the Entity case.
Yeah, which is Doris Bither, right?
Doris Bither case, kind of like that, where they could see kind of swirling colored lights going across the walls. They were seeing that. I think that's where they got that from. I think they got that from the Bither case.
Maybe so, yeah.
Because it looks the way it was described.
Yeah, Doris
they even
Bither,
photographed some of it.
Hers were kind of, it looked like weird arcs of light, in the pictures.
And one of them just looked kind of like a swirling flame down by the carpet.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird thing, No way to describe it. I don't know if it was hoaxed or whatever.
Yeah, that was a weird... I think we did a long time ago. I think that was just maybe the second episode. First or second episode we ever did, like, years and years ago.
Yeah.
Where we talked about, like, the real case versus the movie.
Right.
Which I found a little bit about the actual case, enough to see that it wasn't anything like movie. Now, the actual people, who this was their haunting, their last name is Johnson, but their first names are different. Like, in the movie, they're named Charlie, I think Charlie and Patty. And in the real life, they were named Ron and Doretta.
Yeah.
And they actually bought a house that used to be a motel. Like, I don't know what the house looked like, but it's not in California. It was in Indiana. And so it wasn't brand new, like in the movie.
But
and
in Poltergeist, it was in California.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And the house in this movie kind of looks like the house from Poltergeist. Like, in that, it's a similar kind of suburb like that. Yeah. Like a, And, but they bought it and they were going to renovate it. So it wasn't new. Like, and they were going to turn it into a daycare center and live in it also. And then they had, like, all this kind of... But the haunting in their case was kind of, like, had something to do with some kind of childhood trauma that Patty had. Which I don't know what the specifics of that were. Because, like I said, there's not really a lot out there about it. And I didn't have time to read the book. Now, there was a paranormal witness that was based on the real case. I think it was from season 4. And it was just called The Motel. Yeah. Which we probably saw it because we saw a lot of Paranormal Witness, but I don't remember it. Yeah. Now, on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia entry for this movie, which is very slight, it just has a tiny like paragraph for the plot synopsis and everything. It needs to be fleshed out some. But it says at the beginning that the real story was also featured on Sightings, which I think it was, and... It said it was on a haunting,
but we couldn't figure.
But I couldn't figure out which episode
they were talking about.
I don't remember any episode like that, and I kind of like skimmed through all the summaries of all the episodes. And I couldn't find anything like it, unless it was like one of the later seasons that I'm not as familiar with.
Season 7, there's very little data.
Right, so it's like I wasn't really sure. So I don't know if this was on a haunting, but it was for sure on Paranormal Witness. I think it was season 4.
Okay.
And it was called The Motel. So that was kind of more similar to the actual story.
Yeah, so Phantom, if you want to know more about the case, Paranormal Witness Season 4, The Hotel.
I think it was Season 4, Episode 1.
Okay.
The Motel, I think was what it was called.
And that's what it's based on.
Yeah. But this movie, what it starts out at, it's this family and, husband and wife. They have 2 kids. They have a daughter who looks about 10-ish, I want to say. And then they have a little boy who's about 4, 5, something. I'm not good at kids' ages. Or something like that. And there's also some trauma that's implied like pretty early that the wife had a miscarriage like 6 months previously and is still kind of fucked up about it. And she had like some problems afterward. Like, she was really upset about it. So she had to go to therapy and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't know where they were moving from. I don't know if they mentioned it. But I guess they were crammed into a little bitty apartment because they kept like complaining about, oh, no more of that or whatever. So they move out to this brand new house because she says later on nobody's lived in this house before. Yeah. So it's a brand new house, just like in Poltergeist. And I'm presuming it's out in California. It's a very poltergeisty looking suburban street.
Yeah. 80s neighborhood.
Yeah.
Late 70s, early 80s.
It looks very much like that.
Yeah.
Now, Beau Bridges, who plays Charlie... He is a truck driver.
Yeah.
So that means that he's gone a lot.
He doesn't believe what's going on with the haunting.
Oh my God.
Never there.
I was like so mad on her behalf at the end of this movie. And I'm just like, and he finally, like at the end, when he sees the shit hitting the fan, like in a massive way.
He's like, you aren't
oh
crazy.
My God, I'm so... And she's like, I fucking told you. It's like, that's what I would be doing.
Hey, man.
I was like, I would not forgive you for
half
that.
Half of the episodes on the fucking Haunting series are that. The husband doesn't see it till the very end.
It makes me so mad.
Husband's not home. He don't see it.
You're just crazy.
Yeah, I bet you're crazy.
You don't know anything.
Bitches see things.
They see things that aren't there. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's
their ears and eyes don't work right.
Yeah,
they're just women.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Women don't know.
They don't know anything. So it's just that it just like amuses me so much that that's like such a trope, and it was like it was really, and And the thing about this one is that he went whole hog, man. Like, when it gets toward the end, she keeps telling him, she keeps trying to tell him, like, she doesn't want to tell him at first. She's like, I know he's going to fuck with me about it. Because, like I said, she just had the miscarriage and she was upset and she had to have some therapy. She's like, he's going to think that I'm losing my mind and all this other kind of stuff. She's like, I keep seeing this weird shit around, and he's just like, well, are you sure it wasn't that? Are you sure? Look, I'm sure it wasn't that. You know what I mean? And as time goes on and it gets worse and worse and worse, and she starts to think that, like, her kids, particularly her son, which we'll get into in a little bit why it's specifically her son, but she starts to think that, like, her son is actually, like, in danger, you know what I mean, from this entity that's in the house. And so she's like, you know, we have to get them out of there, we can't. And he starts thinking, like, and she's, like, frantic, you know what I mean? She's like, they're gonna kill my kid, you know what I mean? Which they were. But he doesn't believe it, and he has her committed.
Yeah, locks her ass up.
They're, like, in a diner, like, her, and he tricks her, like, because she's like, you know, I'm in this diner with the kids, and it's like, I had to get out of the house, like, all this fucked up shit was happening. Okay, it's fine, I'll come get you. Where are you? And I'm like, girl, don't tell him. But, like, she did. And so he comes there with the psychiatrist and, like, man with the butterfly net. He didn't have a butterfly net, but you know what I mean? Like, he had, like,
dudes with the nets,
Yeah, it's like, and, like, take her to the fucking, like, right in the middle of the diner. Like, everybody's down. I was like, oh, my God. I would never fucking forgive you if you did that. Like, but, yeah, it's like, she's like, excuse me but she escaped out of there, but it was a whole thing. So, yeah. So they move into this house, which, like I said, is brand new. Now, at the beginning, there's kind of like a cold open, which kind of shows you the genesis of the haunting, I guess. What happened was 75 years prior, obviously the house was not there, but there was a house on that land. And the dad flipped out for some reason. I don't think they ever say, like, why the dad flipped out. Because they kind of talk to, like, the daughter later, who's, like, an old woman now. Yeah. But I don't think she knows. But so the dad flips out and drowns his son in the tub. And then the mom, quite rightfully, blows his fucking face off with a shotgun. And she goes to jail, which, why? I don't know.
I don't think that would have happened in the early 1900s.
Probably not. But yeah, so she goes to jail, and whatever happens to the daughter, because, like I said, the daughter actually grows up and gets it because you meet her later, like, as a really old lady. Because she kind of gives some insight in what happened. But so there's a whole thing, and like lightning hits this big oak tree in the back and, like, breaks it all up and stuff. And then we jump ahead 75 years with this family, like, moving into this brand new house on this brand new lot. So, as usual, the paranormal stuff starts pretty innocuously, I guess. Like, I think the first stuff, like I said, there's not a great plot synopsis anywhere that I could find, but, like, the first, it was kind of minor stuff, like, kind of like doors closing by themselves, like the water coming on, shit like that. I think at one point, like, Patty thinks she hears somebody in the house. Like I said, she heard a door slamming or, you know, the water on or something like that. So she thinks there's an intruder, as you would, and she calls the cops. And so, like, all her neighbors are kind of, like, looking at her like she's kind of sketch, because she's like, hey, this is a quiet neighborhood, and why are you lowering our property values? Or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But they're nice to her later. But yeah, they kind of think, oh, well, we don't usually have the police here, kind of thing. So they're a little judgy about it. And then, of course, you know, she calls the husband, and he's just like, oh, I'm sure it was just because they have like a cockatoo, right? They have a cockatoo. Who doesn't really, because as soon as I saw that bird, I was like, man, nothing bad better happen to that bird. It doesn't. The bird's fine. Every time I see an animal in a movie, like in a horror movie, it makes me really nervous.
They had the bird in a cage.
The bird's fine, though.
In the back seat of a fucking convertible with the top down.
Yeah.
That tripped me out. They're driving like 70, the bird's back there. It's like, man, that bird would be blowing all over the place, I would think.
Well, he's used to it because he flies, I guess.
I guess so.
Well, I mean, he probably doesn't fly anymore, but yeah. So, I guess they just had the bird in there so they'd have something to blame, like when there were weird noises. Like, oh, it's probably just the bird. Yeah. You know, and she's like, bitch, I've had this bird for like years. I know what the fucking bird sounds like. Yeah. Jesus Christ. So, you know, that's what, I don't know, it was making me mad. So, yeah. So it was just little shit like that. And then she comes into the bathroom one time, and the tub is full. Like, the water's running and the tub is full. And she looks in there, and then, like, blood starts coming out of the drain. You know what I mean? And, of course, she, like, flips the fuck out, as you would. But then, like, when she looks back again, you know, it's not there. Like, the water's still there, but the blood is not there. So it's just minor shit like that. And, you know, she doesn't really say anything at first, like, her son actually sees these lights kind of dancing around in his closet. And much like in Poltergeist, her and the son both see it and they think it's kind of neat. Like, they are, I mean, it's implied that they know that it's paranormal, right?
Yeah.
But they're just like, wow, that's so cool. You know what I mean? They're not scared of it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem threatening. Like the other shit kind of does, but that doesn't. And she starts to think that when she sees the lights and all that other kind of stuff, that might be her baby, like her miscarried baby, like around her. So that kind of makes her feel better. But she knows that there's something else in the house too that is also, that's bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the lights and stuff, that she sees that like very positively. But she wants to think that it's that.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I'm just laughing. Fucking
Laughing at what?
Phantom mentioning the black neighbor. That was a cool character in the fucking book. In the movie.
That dude was like so funny.
See,
he was not in it a lot, but
this is the '90s, okay? And the husband, he's a truck driver.
yeah,
And he's moved into this basically like upper middle class, affluent neighborhood.
yeah. Everybody's got boats.
Yeah,
and shit.
everybody got boats and shit. And the black dude works in IT.
Yeah,
So he knows all about the internet.
And it's 1996.
It's 96, right? And he bought this new boat over the internet. And he was doing all this shit over the internet. He was even given the website. And it's just blowing the trucker's mind. He's pretending like he understands what the brother's saying. You know what I mean?
It was so funny.
It was fucking funny.
Because now it's like, now everybody's like,
Everybody knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, obviously you can buy anything over the internet that you want to.
Yeah, that dude was ahead of the curve, though.
But yeah, back then he's like, yeah, I bought this boat.
He knows about
I bought it on the web.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what? How'd you do that?
And then when the shit starts going down, he goes to the dude. He goes, "Look, man, I'm gone a lot. Can you keep?" He goes, "No, don't worry about it, man. I'll keep an eye on him." So he's watching over the family when he's gone.
Yeah.
But it was just a funny part of the movie.
That was pretty
Is
funny.
that he's even we got this at www.this
whatever the fuck.
And that was like back in the time when
Buyingboats.com.
Yeah, buyboats.com.
And he even said HTTP.
HTTP, yeah, that was thing. Yeah. He goes through the whole fucking thing.
He goes through the whole fucking thing, backslash.
That was back when it was mystifying the fucking the viewer too. They're like, what the fuck's he talking about?
Wow, that dude's
He's
smart.
on another level.
Yeah. That was very funny. Yeah. Well, there's a couple funny scenes at the beginning where they have like a barbecue or whatever, like to meet their neighbors. And there's a hilarious sequence where Beau Bridges is trying to bond with the dudes.
Talking about wrestling.
And he keeps talking, he's like, hey, you guys see that wrestling match last night? And they're like, no.
Yeah, and they're like, but the Undertaker.
The Undertaker, this and that and the other. And they're just like,
yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is.
You're lame.
Yeah.
And it's just like, finally, he talks about like all these things and they're just like not. They're just like, you know what I mean? They're just sitting there drinking beer and being like, wow, I wish I could go home.
He's working class. He's made it, though. You know, truck drivers make a lot of money.
They just want to talk about fishing.
Yeah, but, the other dudes were all upper middle class fucking IT dudes and dudes that worked in offices and shit. So they were just like, they were corporate dudes. So they didn't want to hear his fucking stories about wrestling and shit. The Undertaker. When you talk about The Undertaker and somebody else, I forgot.
Yeah, I can't remember who else.
He mentioned a bunch of fucking wrestlers.
Yeah.
From that era.
Yeah, he was trying to like
Yeah, and those guys didn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
They're just like, or they didn't care.
It's like, that's for kids. Yeah.
But finally, like I said, they kind of perk up when they start talking about fishing.
Yeah.
Except then, like, he comes up with some dumbass story about, like, I caught this big bass and it was this big and it, like, bit me and its teeth went in and they're like, bass don't have teeth, dummy.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they were like, okay, it's all right. So they all go fishing. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what, like, the neighbor has the boat that he ordered off the web. So funny. So that's another thing. So not only is Beau Bridges gone in the truck, like, for work, but then he's also going off fishing with the dudes. So it's like, so he's gone like all the time and he doesn't see shit. Yeah. So she's just like stuck in the house with these two fucking kids all the time. And she's just seeing crazy shit all the time. So mostly, like I said, mostly it seems like door slamming, the weird lights thing, although she doesn't think that's scary. She thinks that's cool. But like, and then the taps turning on and the blood and that kind of stuff. And then it kind of starts ramping up to a point where, because doesn't the, well, there's one scene that's kind of ambiguous because they come home and the little boy, like, looks up and he sees like a creepy looking bald dude looking out at him from the bathroom window,
Yeah.
which looks like the same dude, like that's the dad from the beginning that drowned the son, like 75 years ago.
It's the same actor.
And yeah, but like, so they go up there to the bathroom, and then the light's like super bright and everything like that, and then they go in there, and then this big fucking face, and it's just like all smoky and white in there, and they're like blah, and she just like screams her fucking head off, and then it turns out that there was actually a workman in the bathroom like fixing, there was like some leak in the ceiling or some shit, and of course her husband didn't tell her.
Yeah, there's a bunch of plausible deniability to all
right. So that's another reason why like he doesn't really believe her, because she's like, oh my god, I saw like this big fucking ghost or whatever, and he's just like, no, it was just this guy, and I should have told you that this guy was up here working in the bathroom, and it's like, you know, you just came in here and he scared the shit out of you and all this other kind of stuff. But I think she still saw something, obviously. So she starts getting, like I said, you know, he doesn't see anything, and so she starts getting more and more I don't know, like discouraged and not really wanting to tell him anything because he just keeps like blowing her off. So there's this psychic in town. I guess she's got like a shop or something. And she first sees her sitting outside, like when she's grocery shopping with some of the neighbor ladies. And the woman like grabs her kid. Like, what's the kid's name? Jonathan, I think.
No, I don't
like
remember.
the 4 or 5 year
I don't remember hardly anybody's name.
Yeah, I think the kids, I don't remember the little girl's name, but I think the little boy's name was Jonathan. And so the psychic like grabs him and then says something to her about your boy is in danger, and it's like something about water, like keep him away from water or something like that. And she's just like, hey, can you take your fucking hands off my kid or whatever? And then like the other neighbor ladies say, oh yeah, that lady, she was like a suspect in a murder, and like she moved here to like escape like everybody talking about her. And she's kind of like, they don't say this outright, but it's implied that she's kind of low-key in disguise because she's wearing a wig.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing about it was there's a scene where she's kind of in close-up, and I'm like, wow, that's a really obvious wig. And then she goes like this and like adjusts it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's supposed to be an obvious wig, so that's why they did
Like,
that.
that's an obvious wig.
Well, yeah, I mean, duh. Well, that's why I did it, because I was just kind of like, yeah, this is an obvious wig too. But so I was like, okay, so it's not a bad wig. She's just trying to be like, they're trying to show that she's, and they don't even actually specify, because she does say later that I guess the implication was she was a suspect in a murder. That's not a lie. But they suspected her because she was there when it happened. But she was there when it happened, she says, because she had a psychic vision that it was going to happen, and she was trying to prevent it. But she couldn't prevent it. And the cops didn't believe her, obviously, because she said she had a psychic vision, blah, blah, blah. So they don't really go a whole lot into it. But, so the psychic, she gets mad at her at first. But then, like, as stuff gets worse and worse in the house, and she starts to feel like, because there's one point where her little boy, he has, like, a little inflatable Shamu. And he goes and turns on the tub and goes playing in the tub so Shamu can have a place to swim, And he fills it all the way up, and then some invisible ghosty entity presence thing starts trying to drown him. And then, like, the mom, like, she doesn't hear it for a while because she's doing some other stuff, like, down in the kitchen. And then the phone keeps ringing, too. You know what I mean? Like, and there's nobody there, so it's, like, distracting her. And so finally she gets up there, and then like the door shuts and she can't open it and all this other kind of shit. But finally she gets in there, and when she gets in there, the kid is like hanging in midair, like over the tub. Like some big dude is like holding him like over the tub, and he's like all soaking wet and freaking out and everything. And so she does save him from that. So after that happens, she thinks, oh, I guess the psychic was onto something. And then she goes down to see her again. But at that point, like, the psychic's like, yeah, I'm blowing this popsicle stand. I'm getting out of fucking town because everybody's fucking with me. But she's like, can you come to my house and, like, see what's going on? I'm sorry I doubted you, blah, blah, blah. So then at that point, like, the psychic comes there, and she walks in, and she's like, what the fuck? She's like, why didn't you tell me, like, this house was this fucking haunted? But she tells her that there are two entities in the house. One of them is the little boy that was drowned in the tub, and that's the happy one that she keeps seeing, like, that's the lights and stuff, so that's the good one. And then the other one is obviously the kid's dad that, that drowned him. So he's like the evil one, and he doesn't want to leave. And the psychic says that the dad's ghost wants the living kid, too. So he's going to try and kill her kid. Yeah. And she also goes to visit, because it turns out that at the very beginning, when they had the whole thing about the dad, like, drowning the kid in the tub, and then they had, and then the mom shooting his face off, there was a sister, like an older sister, and that sister is still alive. Like, she's in an old folks home, and she's like 90 years old or something. And she goes to the old folks home and finds her and brings her back to the house. So the ghost of the little boy is her little brother that got murdered.
Yeah.
And so she brings her there. So she kind of tells her all, and she's like, oh, and in the backyard, by the way, that was our family graveyard.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. So what?
I was going to say, the story is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say it's almost kind of like a real good expanded episode of The Haunting. A lot of the same shit that happens in a Haunting episode.
Yeah.
Kind of happens in this too. I'm sure they didn't go back and see this movie and use it as fucking a template. Poltergeist was used as a template for this one, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's a decent movie.
Yeah,
it's made for TV. It had good special effects.
I actually really enjoyed it.
Had good special effects actually in it. They weren't fucking through the roof, but they were decent special effects.
Yeah, for a made for TV movie from 1996.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen a better copy of it, but we only had what we had.
Like, and now I'm kind of curious to look on Tubi, because it said it was on Tubi.
Yeah, it might.
Although it said it was on Amazon Prime, and I couldn't find it, unless it was on there like under another title, because like I said, it has 4 different names. I looked under 2 or 3 of the names, but it didn't come up. So I don't know if they just lied. That does happen every now and then. Like, it says that it's on a streaming service.
Well, it could be there for a while, and then they take it down.
That's what I mean. It might, so it might not have updated yet. I think that has happened. But yeah, so there's a whole thing at the end too, where after she discovers the graves and knows that the old woman is right and the psychic is right, and she starts to think, well, this ghost is going to kill my kid, which she has been trying to do. So she's like, we have to get out of here. And of course, Beau Bridges is not having it, because he has not seen a single thing that has happened, because he's always gone. You know what I mean? So he doesn't see anything, and he doesn't believe her, and he thinks she's just like flipping out again. So like I said, he straight up has her committed, and they take her to, a mental facility, and she's just like losing it. She's just kind of like fucking, which obviously that's bad, because that makes you look even more crazy. You know what I mean? I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? It's kind of coming off like that. But she's desperate. She needs to get out of there.
That's kind of what happened to Donnie Deckard in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I can just imagine.
They knew he was for real when that shit started raining.
Yeah. It's just sad that it's just like, so she's trapped in there. They won't let her leave. And so Beau Bridges, he's just la-di-da, and he just takes the kids back to the house. She's like, don't take them back to the house. Yeah. Take them to a motel or something. But he's just like, no, whatever. You're crazy. So he just takes them back to the house, and obviously something horrible happens. Yeah. Like, there's all kind of horrible shit. Like, the ghost, like, lures the kid down to the basement, right? Yeah, lures the kid down to the basement, slams the door so nobody can get in there, and then starts flooding the basement, and then, like, ties the kid up with the hose. I said, oh, he got hosed.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the hose comes down like a snake and, like, ties him up, and it's going to, like, have him tied under there so he can drown.
You're, like, in 2 feet of water.
Yeah, but it's, the water's, like, filling up, like, in the basement. And so Beau Bridges can't get out. But, like, before that, he sees something that leads him to believe, because while all that is happening, he's outside digging in the yard. I can't remember. He saw something that he's like, oh, shit, I guess my wife is right after all. Like, he saw some doors slamming by themselves or something. Yeah. Like, or the water came on, or something weird happened, and he's like, well, shit, maybe there are graves in the backyard. So he got a shovel, and it's, like, pouring down rain, just like in Poltergeist, like when she was digging in the pool. Yeah. When she fell in the pool with all the bodies and stuff. And so, and they had a big hole out there too, because they were digging a garden, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a pool, but he was digging out a garden. And so he goes out there in the rain and starts digging, And he doesn't find any bones, but he finds like a bunch of headstones.
Yeah.
Like, so they kind of pull back and there's like all these like headstones.
Speaking of Poltergeist in that particular scene, they said that in Poltergeist, some of those bodies in that scene were real cadavers.
I've heard that, but I don't know if that's an
and that the actors didn't know, that they didn't tell them. I wonder if it's true.
I mean, you'd be able to smell it, so.
I think they might have had formaldehyde, you know what I mean? So
maybe.
I don't think they were rotten.
But like I said, I think that might be an urban legend.
Maybe.
You know, because, I mean, they did look really good.
Yeah.
They looked real. But, I don't know. They do use real shit sometimes because it is a documented fact, for example, that on Day of the Dead, the George Romero movie, they did use real pig intestines. Yeah. When they, you know, that at the end where they tear roads in half? Yeah. Those are real pig intestines. Right. And because I saw, there's a documentary, an old documentary about Tom Savini, and they show, like, after they say cut from that scene, and everybody's like, oh. Because they're like, everybody had, like, you know, stuff up their nose and everything like that because it smelled so bad.
Yeah. Well, it was like in Alien. The xenomorph egg and the face hugger had real stuff in it. Like in that egg, they were using fucking sheep stomach and internal organs that they got. Looking. And then on the inside of the face hugger, that's an oyster. It's a couple of oysters splayed open in there that they were moving around.
I mean, you might as well. It's better than like, do it. Making it.
Yeah.
It's real.
Looks real because it is real.
It is real.
It's just in a fake creature.
Yeah, that's what they figured. Well, like I said, when they made Day of the Dead, the problem was they had like, because Tom Savini's like, we had this, I think it was 5-gallon or 10-gallon drum, like full of pig intestines. And it's like, and we had it in the refrigerator, you know what I mean? So we would bring it out to use it and then put it back in the refrigerator so it wouldn't stink too bad. But they like, we had a break over Christmas and the refrigerator got unplugged or the power went out or something like that. So it was all rotten when they got back. It's like we couldn't afford to get more, so we had to keep using it. So it's like, so it smelled like horrible. Like everybody had like Vicks Vapor Rub like on fucking cotton balls like shoved up their nose and stuff like that, just because it was like making people gag. And like I said, as soon as they said cut, like there's little clips of everybody just going like just walking off. It's like so funny. But yeah, so like I said, the real story that this is based on does not happen in a brand new house. Does not happen in California. It actually happened in Indiana. And the couple that bought the house in real life, they did have 2 kids, but one of them was a teenage boy, and one of them was a girl, like a little girl. So it was like reversed, like genders of the children, and like one of their kids was much older, was like a teenager. And they bought this house. I don't know how long it had been empty, but it needed renovation. So they were going to renovate it and live in it and turn it into a daycare. And their haunting didn't really have it. There was no, nobody had drowned their kid in the tub. Nobody had shot anyone's face off. Nobody had done anything like that. It seemed like most of the haunting stemmed from the woman's, what was her name? Doretta Johnson. Most of the hauntings seem to stem from some trauma that she had in her past, like some kind of abuse or something that she had. So I think she was like seeing shit that was related to that rather than something that happened like in the house. Whereas this movie seemed to like very one-to-one, you know, these 2 ghosts that used to live on this land are haunting this house, and one of them is good and one of them's bad. Yeah,
and the CB's in there going, typical Americans building shit on the fucking tops of fucking burial grounds. That where that shit first of all, it doesn't happen. They got that concept from Poltergeist.
You only move the headstone.
You just remove the headstone. They got that from Poltergeist, and Poltergeist got it from one of the oldest fucking American memes in the fucking world. That's burying something on an Indian burial ground. Even though most Native Americans, especially out in California, they didn't bury their dead. They usually put them in like a hammock, in a place on top of a hill usually, and it was kind of like a Tibetan sky burial. They left them up there, and the birds got them, basically. Now some tribes buried their dead, but most of them didn't. My understanding. they did what was kind of like a Tibetan sky burial. They put them in like a hammock, and they were up on poles, up above everything, so the animals couldn't get to them, but birds got to them. But that was okay. It was kind of like taking them to heaven.
Yeah.
That's how they did most of them. So, building on top of an Indian burial ground, that was something 2-bit psychics had come up with as a...
Because it sounds plausible.
It sounds plausible, right. But...
I think it might also stem from that Black Hope Cemetery case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's where Poltergeist got the idea from.
Right. It's just, it's unlikely that has anything to do with hauntings or...
Well...
Because look at it this way. Basically, all of fucking Rome is a graveyard.
I mean, everywhere is, really, if you go back far enough.
That city's fucking thousands of years old, you know what I mean? And fucking, they buried there. If you you build anything around Rome, you're probably on a place where somebody died. Because, you know, millions of people fucking over the years lived and died in every fucking square foot of that fucking place, man.
Yeah, I'm sure some people died on this fucking land.
Yeah.
Like a long time before this house was here.
Yeah, congested.
I'm not worried about it. But the thing about it is that, well, in this movie's defense, they did not pull out the Native American burial ground. This wasn't Native American burial ground. Yeah. That was their family cemetery.
Yeah, yeah.
Is what that was.
I'm just saying they got that from the Native American burial ground trope.
Yeah.
And that came from psychics saying that. Trying to come up with a reason of why a place is haunted. And it may not have been haunted. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just like any of these other fucking psychics. They go to a place and make it worse by telling more stories. Like, you know, what was the two couples? Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yeah. You might have something going on there, but when Ed and Lorraine Warren showed up, they'd fucking magnify it. They'd fucking, oh yeah, well, I saw her levitate, you know. The devil was there, you know, he looked at me. I saw him standing right there. Yeah, sure, Ed. You know.
Yeah, I mean...
Professional fucking demonologists and psychics. They're trying to sell books.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So they're going to exaggerate.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants something that's, like, spooky and scary, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, if you're just going to write something that's just like, hey, this is what really happened and it's not that exciting, like, no one's going to buy it.
Right.
You know?
Because the Warrens were at cases that I believe in, like Enfield. But they didn't have much to do with Enfield. They kind of got kicked off the case.
Like I said, I heard that they just showed up at the door, and they were like, "Who the fuck are you people?"
Like, get the fuck out of here. And then they said, at first they said nothing happened. It was a place where that was a hoax because they weren't involved in it. And then a few years later, they said, "Oh no, we were in that whole case." And then next thing you know, they make a whole movie about it, The Conjuring. Yeah. They didn't have anything to do with that case.
No, they didn't.
They got kicked off of it.
Yeah, like I said, they weren't invited.
Right.
They just showed up unannounced.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guys that were already working on the case are like, who are you? No, we got it handled. Thanks.
In The Conjuring, the main character that wasn't the girl was based on Morris Gross, who was a parapsychologist. I think he's in there too. But then don't they make Morris Gross seem a little bit like Ed Warren? Because Lorraine
I can't remember,
is there.
actually. I haven't seen it
in a while. I remember, the way I remember it, they kind of blended Ed Warren and fucking Maurice Gross into the same kind of character. And I think Lorraine was there in the movie.
Well, all the Conjuring movies have the two actors that play Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're like the main characters.
They're all in
every single
okay.
Conjuring movie.
So maybe Morris Gross was in there also.
And the one that's based on Enfield is wildly exaggerated. There's like a bunch of stuff in there that did not happen.
Yeah. If you want to know what really happened, you got to get a book. It's out of print. I got it right over there called This House is Haunted.
Yeah, I bought it. It was like an old library book.
The author is Guy Lyon Playfair. And he lived with them and wrote it down and everything that he saw and what cops said that they saw. Because they had news reporters that saw shit. That was a real poltergeist case. Even though I think some people exaggerated what they saw. But you're just going on the testimony of one person. They said they saw something. But if it was a group of people reporting that they saw something that actually sounded reasonable based upon what I've seen in poltergeist case. Because I've only seen one major one, and then the same one, it still kind of sporadically does shit.
In my opinion, movies that are supposedly based on true stories, like paranormal stories, I think they're scarier if they kind of stick to
what happened.
Yeah. Because low key is a lot more scary to me than like just big ghosts in your face and all that. That's not really scary.
Well, the normies have a high threshold now because they've seen all this shit, like.
Yeah, I guess, but it's just kind of like, oh, well, we need this big. Well, like I said, and I brought this up before, and this was obviously not based on our true story, but the difference between The Haunting from 1963, based on The Haunting of Hill House, and the remake in 1999 was that the 1963 one, which was black and white, was super, super subtle. And it just and it was almost exactly like the book. Like there was some stuff that was different, but it really kept to the spirit of the book, keeping everything just very low key and very subtle. And it was much scarier. The one from 1999 was just like a CGI masturbation fest.
Yeah.
There was just like a bed that turned into a spider, and like there was little wooden cherubs that came to life, and I was just like, oh my god, yeah. None of that.
Phantom mentions the acting. Yeah, the acting is good in this.
Yeah.
Beau Bridges is good in it.
Yeah. And even though I wanted to punch him.
Yeah, even though Beau Bridges is kind of known as fucking like the low budget Jeff Bridges,
I wonder, does Jeff Bridges ever say that? Like, at
if they can't hire me, they hire you.
Or whatever.
But Beau did a pretty good
job. What's up, second best?
When I first saw him, I thought it was Jeff Bridges. I said, is that Jeff Bridges? And not Beau Bridges.
No, it's Beau Bridges.
No, he does good. He does a good job in it. Yeah.
Beau Bridges was in that movie that was on MST, Village of the Giants, about those teenagers that ate that weird foam stuff. It was very loosely based on an H.G. Wells story. It's based on Food of the Gods, actually.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It's terrible. Well, they took H.G. Wells' Food of the Gods and turned it into like a 60s teen movie.
Yeah.
So like teenagers, scantily clad teenagers, grow into giants.
Yeah.
And kind of take over a town and become authoritarian.
That could be a fantasy. Some teenage guys would like that. Oh man, she's fucking 30
there is a scene.
She could just put me up in her vag.
Well, there is a scene where there's no vag because it's the 60s.
Yeah.
But there is a scene where a tiny man, the special effects are terrible, but the sentiment is there. Yeah. Where he's hanging from her bra straps.
Oh yeah.
So he's like hanging like in the middle of the titties.
Yeah,
but it's obviously like a concrete.
It's a booby trap.
It's a booby trap. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that it's just like made of plaster or whatever. He's just like, hey, like it looks.
Some teenage.
It's like guys. Roger Corman or something. Yeah. I think it's a Roger Corman movie.
Some teenage guys are going to fantasize about that.
But but it was a good MST episode, and it had little Ron Howard in it when he was Opie size.
I think I've seen it
when he was Opie size.
Yeah,
and his name was Genius.
I think I saw that movie you're talking about.
Yeah.
Probably on MST, I think you.
It was on MST.
I you watch it. I think I watched you watch it. I was probably on my headphones at the time.
Yeah, I watched you watch it. But yeah, so if you're interested, like I said, I couldn't find a lot of information about the real case behind this. But what little I could find, like I said, is pretty much nothing like the movie. You have the couple who I mentioned, Doretta and Ron Johnson. Now, this happened in 1990, and they buy this abandoned hotel in Madison, Indiana, and they were going to renovate it and turn it into a daycare and live in it also. Like I said, they had 2 kids, but not like in the movie. They had like a teenage son, and then they had a younger daughter. And the weird shit that happened in the house is not even like the weird shit that happened in the movie. They said one of the first things that happened was the daughter kept telling her mom, someone's trying to hurt my doll. That's what she said.
This is in the real case?
In the real case, yeah. Okay. And then they said one day they came home, and in the living room, there was a whole bunch of dead crows.
Weird.
And blood coming out of the wall. So it's a little alarming.
Pretty weird, yeah.
A little alarming. And they also had the light bulbs explode.
Yeah.
There was kind of a bath thing, but it wasn't similar. They said Doretta was giving her daughter a bath, and they were kind of talking about the ghosts, like kind of making a joke about it. And then she saw like a reflection of a little girl like in the water, but like it wouldn't go away. Like when she, like, you know what I mean? So there was that. So there was that's kind of similar. There was like a bath thing going on in this movie, but it's kind of a different context. And they said too that the entity would bite her daughter.
Did it leave teeth marks?
I guess so. Like, teeth marks. And the older teenage son had, like, bruises on, like somebody had been, like, beating on him.
Yeah.
And they said one night they woke up and the little girl was standing over their bed with a knife, like, with just this zombie-like expression on her face.
Yeah.
Like, there was that. Now, unlike in the movie, they called a priest to come out and do an exorcism. But it apparently did not work.
No, it just pissed the ghost off.
As it always
Pissed that
does.
poltergeist off, yeah.
Haven't you guys seen any paranormal shows ever?
Yeah.
Every time you bring in a priest to do an exorcism, it just makes it worse. Every single time.
Because it's not a ghost.
No.
It's not a ghost. It's RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis of a person who has psychokinesis, but not consciously.
So until you sort that out.
Yeah, it's under the control of the unconscious mind. The part of you that is all the people in your dreams. If you're fighting somebody in your dream, it seems like that's not you, but it is you. That's all from the subconscious. And that's what has the ability to do it in this case. I've never heard of anybody that I believed that had psychokinesis that was under the control of the conscious mind. That would make you a Jedi or a Sith. But I've never heard of that. People that claimed it, but they were full of shit.
I mean, I would hope nobody would have that.
Well,
That would be bad.
main one that claimed that was Uri Geller. He said he was doing. That's how he's been.
He was definitely full.
He was a fake.
Because magicians can bend spoons.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a
There was a Russian girl that evidently could move the needle, and there's films of her moving a compass. Yeah, that might be plausible. But big fucking psychokinesis under the conscious mind, too hard. You can move big shit, but you have to believe that it was an outside force that moved it. You have to think that God did it, or a fucking devil did it, or, a ghost. If you start thinking that you did it, it'll stop.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. If shit like that ever happens in the house now, it's when I'm asleep, if I'm dreaming about something, or it'll just shock me out of a daze.
Yeah, you'll be like spaced out.
Yeah. But it's not something that I consciously willed. It usually happens for a reason. Like when my dad was dying.
Yeah.
It set the smoke alarm off, but it only like once. Bop, 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 bop.
Well, no, the one in the bedroom went off once or twice, and then the one in the hall went off once or twice, and then the one down the hall went off once or twice.
And then it went away.
And then it stopped.
And it stopped. I called my dad, and he was in the hospital.
And he knew that...
I said, my dad's dying.
Yeah, he knew immediately that that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like it was a warning.
Yeah.
The weird thing is that a couple nights ago, was it 2 or 3 nights ago?
Yeah.
It did that again, but just one time.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
But I was like, oh shit, what happened? Because that was the first thing I thought.
Yeah, and I said, I don't know.
I was like, who?
She was like, what were you thinking about?
Who died?
She was like, what were you thinking about? I said, I wasn't thinking about anything. And I said, let me check my phone. She goes, yeah, check your messages.
Yeah, check and see if something bad happened.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but it just went off one time, so maybe it was just...
Yeah.
Maybe you were just like stressing out about something.
Yeah, and it's not the chirp.
Yeah, we know what that sounds like.
We know what that is. It's... The alarms
goes
go off.
But just one time.
Just once.
Because you know how the fire alarm goes off? It's like, whir, 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 whir. Like it does that, but it just does it one time.
Bump, bump. Or just bump.
And then the one in the hall will do it.
And we'll do it. Bump.
And then the one farther down the hall will do it.
Right, right.
And then it won't do it anymore.
Right. It's done other things more, about a year ago, it fucking threw a ring. Couple months back, I turned around and looked at the TV, and a balled up sock fell in front of my face.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I just fucking grabbed it. I don't let it bother me. I just grabbed the sock, put it back in the closet. And the sock came from the closet, but I don't think about it.
Remember when we lost the Post-it note that had the Wi-Fi password on it?
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there going, you had it last. I don't know where it was, because I usually keep it. It's right here. Like I keep it taped. No, it's right there. I keep it taped like by my computer so I don't lose it. And so Tom needed it for something, and then I couldn't remember if he had put it back or not. But like he's like, where is that? I'm like, I don't know. I thought you had it. And we were looking for it for like hours.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm just like, where the fuck did it go? And stuff like that. And then we looked everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we were walking down the hall, and it was sitting right in the middle of the fucking
ledge.
Ledge.
Yeah.
Right there, like in the hallway.
Yeah, and I said, there it is. Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
thanks,
It
Poltergeist.
took my motorcycle key for a while.
That's right.
Couldn't find that bitch. I was playing with Pookie, and fucking I saw Pookie grab and see she's chewing on something. I looked down and she's chewing on the key. I don't know.
We don't know where it came
what
from.
the fuck?
We don't know
well,
where
I
it
saw
came
her
from.
catch it.
Mm-hmm. So it
Because
must
the key had a rubber fob.
It must just fell out of another dimension.
It fell out of another dimension. She grabbed it.
And she's like, "Hey, neat."
Yeah, and it had a...
and it's got rubber on it.
It's got a rubberized
she
fob.
loves to
She's
chew on
chewing
rubber.
on it. And I go, there it is. There's my key.
Yeah.
And I was missing it for 3 days.
Yeah, we were looking for that for days.
Yeah. But I didn't doubt that. I said, it must not want me to ride.
Maybe,
it must be dangerous.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe something bad would have happened.
Yeah, I think so. I don't question its decisions.
Yeah, just let it do its thing.
You're right.
But yeah, so where was I? Okay, so yeah, we said when we do the exorcism, they had an exorcism done, but obviously that didn't do anything. So they want to move out, but just like, they're like, obviously they have a mortgage, and it's like, you can't just fucking sell and like, leave and everything like that. We don't have the money. So they kind of are stuck there. And they said they also saw an apparition again of like a little girl that said, "Mommy, I'm cold." So there was that. And they did bring in a parapsychologist team. And this team, unlike in the movie, thought that the cause was 3 power lines above their house that was causing a powerful magnetic field. That's what they thought it was. But yeah.
Phantom said he prayed I find the key. I was talking about it. And he said I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It just, like, it was so weird. Like, we looked for it, I think, literally 3 days. We tore the closet apart. We just, everywhere.
And I think I did
I
did mention it on the show.
He could not find that fucking thing anywhere.
It was the key to my Buell Lightning, which is my favorite street bike.
Yeah.
And I leave it in the ignition of the bike. I don't take it out of the bike, and then I just lock the bike up in the garage.
Yeah, it's in the garage.
And just go up there, and fucking the key's already in it. I don't keep it on a ring. You can't keep it on a ring because the ring would be fucking blowing in the wind. It's on the side of the fucking fly screen underneath the headlights, so it's exposed. It's not like a car where you can have fucking keychain hanging. It's not like that. I just need a key in it.
But yeah, it was weird that it just kind of fell. It seemed like it fell out of thin air.
I saw her jump and then grab. I was playing and grabbed something. I looked down and she had the key. I was like, "What the fuck? Look at that! Look at that!" And I took the key and I go, "Yeah, there you go." And I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Her movement. It looked like it must have, like you said, fallen out of another dimension. She saw it coming at her and she grabbed it.
And she's like, "Oh, toy."
She caught it in her hands.
She's not weirded out.
Nah, didn't bother her at all.
No, she's like, she's
like, that's how it happens. She probably thought I dropped it.
Yeah, things just appear.
Yeah.
You didn't though. Like I said, we looked everywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anywhere in that room. We looked under every single table. We looked under the bed. We looked everywhere.
Yeah.
We tore that place apart looking for that fucking key, and we couldn't find it. But yeah, so they had some other shit happen. Like the beds were shaking. There was that. They saw like words written in the steam on the mirror, like in the bathroom. And after that, they were like, okay, fuck this place, and they left and moved out. And again, unlike in the movie, although I guess the movie ended with them just leaving the house and then they sold it to somebody else, and the implication being that the ghost was still in there because they showed at the end like there's a long shot down the hall and then like the door slams by itself, so it's like the evil ghost is still there. The little boy ghost, they sent him over the Rainbow Bridge or whatever. That's for pets, but they sent him into the light, but the evil ghost was still in there. But they're, so they sold it to some other family, but that was where it ended. But in real life, according to them, the activity followed them.
Yeah, typical.
So
Poltergeist.
Because it followed them, they eventually just moved back to the house because they're like, well, I guess
you can't
it's going to follow us anywhere.
It's around people. It's not around places.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So like I said, I don't know. I don't think they still live there or anything like that. But she did write a book in 1995 called "The People in the Attic." And they did the rounds. They did sightings. They did haunted lives. And they for sure did Paranormal Witness. I think they changed the name of the motel to Windrift, the Windrift Motel. That's not what it was really named. But but they did do Paranormal Witness. Like I said, it was season 4. And like I said, they said that they did a haunting, but I couldn't find... If anybody's more familiar with, like, the later episodes, because I'm only really familiar with, like, maybe the first 8 seasons, and I didn't remember anything like this, like somebody buying a motel and turning it into a daycare or anything like that.
Yeah,
and
you
like,
know what they're talking about, dropping the comment.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was on a haunting or not. Like, right. Wikipedia said it was, but I couldn't remember any episode like that. But yeah, so... The thing about it, but this movie, even though it's nothing like the actual case, like they just changed everything. Like I said, I guess to make it kind of more like Poltergeist in a way. But this is actually, for a made-for-TV movie from this era, was actually really good. Like I said, the acting was really good. The special effects were pretty decent. Particularly like the end where the basement's flooding and there's like a vortex where like the evil ghost is like trying to suck the kid down into the vortex or whatever, and it's like they did all that kind of stuff, and you know, and all the stuff about Beau Bridges like not believing his wife and like having her committed and all that other kind of stuff. It's just like, I don't know, it was just like really, really well done. And the actress that played Patty was really good. I mean, you really kind of like felt for her, you know what I mean, because she was like in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So but yeah, this is like, it's totally decent. This is totally decent.
And if you want to find out what happened to me when I was a kid, similar to this kind of shit, Jen wrote a book about it called Mammoth Mountain Poltergeist. It's on Amazon. And she has an audio book version of it that's really good. That it's a second edition of the audio, or third edition, because I went in there and at the end of it talked more about it. Shit that... did I forget it in the book, or more? No, stuff that happened since then.
Yeah, I think we added that to the other edition, like stuff
like
that
what happened with what happened with the back door, and what happened with the garage and the doorbell ringing and all that.
Yeah, because it came back.
Yeah,
like while we were working on the book.
If I think about it too long, and
like I said, it still does it every now and then.
Yeah,
but not.
So normally to give me a message. Yeah. Usually. If I'm upset, it'll do it, but a lot of times it doesn't mean anything, but sometimes it does. I know when it means something.
Yeah. Yeah, you do seem to know. Cause like
I get a feeling.
Because like I said, as soon as those smoke alarms started going off, like in that weird way,
yeah,
you knew immediately that it was
I knew my dad was dying.
That it was something to do with your dad.
Yeah.
Because you called him like immediately, oh, I got to call my dad.
Yeah.
So he knew.
Yeah, he had just checked into the hospital. He was dying.
Yeah. So. It was pretty weird that it like warned you like that, though.
It's because you're interconnected.
Yeah.
Interconnected, you know, through some kind of quantum entanglement. You're getting information through the universe somehow. You can't think about it in rational terms. It's not rational.
Yeah.
It's some kind of weird irrational instinct. I think it's quantum physics, and quantum physics doesn't make any fucking sense.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, not that our brains evolved.
Yeah, it's hard for us to understand it. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
We just didn't evolve to understand that because we didn't need to.
Yeah.
That's all. But yeah, all right. So I guess we're going to wrap it up for this evening. So thanks everybody for dropping by. For the Wednesday night show, we are doing another paranormal show, which I think was also Phantom's suggestion. I had actually never heard about this, but there is a very, very haunted house in the UK. I believe it's is it in Sussex or Essex? Now I can't remember. But it's called The Cage. And it used to be like I was thinking it was just like a general prison, but there was like kind of a famous case of like 14 witches that were imprisoned there, and some of them were hanged. In particular, one called Ursula Kemp, who was pretty famous. So we're going to be doing a show about that. So it's kind of about witchcraft trials, hauntings, that kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys can join us for that on Wednesday. It should be a fun show. But yeah, have a good rest of your evening, you guys. Have a good day tomorrow, and we'll see you again on Wednesday night.